I am sure that by now most of you have watched Bridgerton, the beautiful series that's set in Regency times with all the amazing costumes. Well, in order to start an outfit for something like that, and in my case, Regency themed parties, you need to start with the undergarments. So this time we're going to get started with Regency Stays. Hey everyone, welcome back to a new video in this series on, well actually no, we're starting out with a new series of Regency sewing. So last time I did some Edwardian sewing where I made this corset, and this time we're going to be making some Regency under things. And that thing is Regency Stays. Now, I have done my research and I have found many different types. There are some long ones, short ones, ones with tabs in like the changeover years. So many options. Now, mine is going to be a little bit more modernized just because I've been to festivals before. I know what feels comfortable for me, and also I need to be able to wash it properly. So my Regency Stays are not going to be quite historically accurate, but I can promise you they're going to be very comfortable. Now, I have seen many examples of the long Regency Stays, and they had the long busk in the front. Now, for me, that is not comfortable if I wear it all day, especially if I go to my festivals. I want to be able to move freely, so I've decided to make a pair of short stays. I've made a pair of these before, so I've actually already figured a lot of this stuff out, but this time I'm just going to make it to my new and updated sizes, as the one I made before was made several years ago. Now, because I've already made a simple plain white one in the past, this time we're going to be using a little bit of color, and that is a pink. This is literally just a simple pink bed sheet, and I'll be using this in combination with some white coutil I still have laying around, and together this should be sturdy and strong enough for my Regency Stays. Now, Regency Stays were often corded and just had the busk in the front to divide the ladies. But other than that, there wasn't really any boning. But my version is going to have boning just because I find it easier. I do want to do a cording project at some point, but I've seen some nice versions of red threaded that are made in a similar way. They also have some boning in them, and the one I've made before was exactly like that, and I liked it. So that's what we're going to do. Now, for the pattern, there are a few patterns you can buy. I know the one from Red Threaded is really good. I've heard a lot of good things about that one. And I know there are some other ones. I've decided to draft up my own. I found a tutorial online. I will link it down below. Do make sure that you're making a mock-up. I'll be making a mock-up because there's always going to be some things that need to be adjusted, and you won't be able to know that until you've actually tried it on. So do not forget to make a mock-up. So first step is I'm going to make the mock-up, and after that we can just get started on the Regency Stays. Now, this is not a very hard project compared to my previous project, the Edwardian corset. If you haven't seen that video yet, do go check it out. After that one, this is going to be easy peasy, so I'm looking forward to just knocking this one out. And then after that, I can actually start focusing on the other undergarments, so the chemise, and for my Edwardian stuff, I'll be making combinations. So it's going to be the chemise and the drawers in one. So I have plenty of projects coming up. First, let's go get started on the mock-up, and I'll show you how it turned out. Well, what do you think? I do feel like they're starting to look like Regency Stays. So this is actually my second mock-up, because the first one was a hot mess. I'm not even going to show you because there's no point. It didn't fit. It was way too big, so I made it a whole lot smaller, and then make this version so we can actually see what it's supposed to look like and tweak it a little bit to make sure it's actually going to fit me properly. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is the fabric I used for this was an old sheet, so it is definitely not as sturdy as the final fabric I'm going to use, which is a white coutil that I still had laying around. You can also use other fabrics, so go ahead, try it out, but make sure it's sturdy enough to actually hold its shape. So often it's used with a few layers. Mine's going to be a 2-layer with a layer of cotton and a layer of coutil. But yes, outside of that, the mock-up. So I've tweaked the pattern a little bit, besides the fact that it was way too big for me, and I felt like it could use some shape here in the waist, because my waist goes like that. I'm not that straight. And also I changed the cups, because I actually really like this shape. It's slightly rounder, And the original actually uses gussets that look like this, and my version is this. And this way you get a cup that is slightly more cup shape and not as much like straight and flat, whatever you prefer, but I like this shape a lot more just because it's going to hold your bust in just a little bit better, and it, I don't know, just looks nicer and rounder. You can give it a try, see the difference it makes. I prefer this one. Now, I've made the straps way too long, so let's go pin those. It's making the whole thing a bit wonky. I got overexcited. I didn't want my straps to be too short, and then I made them too long. Yeah, see, that's doing a lot more already. Okay. See, that already looks better because it's keeping everything in place and I don't feel like pulling up my Regency Stays. If you're doing that, you need to fix something, at least your straps. So, pretty happy with this. It is still a little bit too big. As you can see, the back is all closed up, so there's no space for weight gain or weight loss. So we're going to fix that. So I'll be taking a little bit of space from the sides, and that way my straps should move a little bit more here, which is perfect for if I want to do a lower back dress, because the last thing you want is to have a pretty low back in your gown and then see your straps. It's kind of the Regency version of seeing your bra straps when you're wearing a super pretty dress. You don't want that, so we're going to fix that. Now, I'm pretty happy with it. I've added boning to the sides here and to the front. I'm just using German boning. Let me show you. Ta-ta. So this is nice and flexible. I know the originals had wooden busks. I have Crohn's disease. I'd rather keep my stomach free if I can, especially for festivals. And this Regency pair of stays is definitely going to be for some kind of event, and that way it's more comfortable in the long run. My friend Gabby Monet actually came up with a test on how to know that your corset is comfortable. If you can eat pizza in it and you're still comfortable, it's a good corset. So the pizza test. I think we're done here. I'm going to make the adjustments in my pattern and then get started on the real one. And I'm trying to show you all the techniques that I use in this. And first up is putting in the gussets. Now keep in mind, a lot of different costumers, so a lot of different methods on putting in gussets. This is my way. If you like it another way, that is fine too. Just make sure that it's something that works for you and is not going to make you want to throw this thing out of the window. So let's get started. So now that I've cut out my pieces, it is time for the gussets. Now, the gussets are always the trickiest part in Regency Stays, and definitely one that you have to practice on a little bit. So my way of doing it is this. So I roll this, like the seam allowance on this side, I roll that to the inside, and then I put the gussets against it and top stitch it. So the back is going to look like this, and I actually hand baste this all in place before I actually sew it, because as you can see, this is super neat. Like the stitching is very, very neat. And I baste it in place just because it's so fiddly. I've done this before with my previous one, because if you try to do it on a machine, sometimes it just won't go your way and it will take twice as long as when you would have just basted it in the first place. So I like to be thorough with these things, so I'm going to do that, especially because there's a lot of strain on it, especially on the bottom corner, so I'll reinforce that with some thread. But yes, I'm going to do those by hand. There are 8 gussets to put in, so I'm going to get to that and show you what it looks like when I'm done with these. Well, after plenty of hours of some hand basting and some very careful machine sewing, I have finished my fashion layer. I have attached the straps in the back, And I also need to do this for my strength layer, so my coutil. So it is going to look like this. As you can see, this pattern really is pretty straightforward. The only hard part is the gussets, and I still struggle with them. I'm definitely going to reinforce my gussets on the fashion layer because this material is fraying away as I touch it. So, like, the corners of my gussets don't look too happy. So I'll get some pretty embroidery thread and reinforce it just a little bit. But this layer is done, needs some ironing, and this layer is going to be done now. I've actually sewn my gussets on my modern machine just because that one is a lot more gentle with slippery fabrics like my fashion layer. But my strength layer, I can easily sew the rest on my Threadle. So we're going old school again. After that, we're already pretty far. Then I'll be putting both layers together and sew in the boning channels, finish the back edge where the lacing is going to be. Need to add grommets and straps. But yeah, this project is actually not going to take very long at all. So remember all the Victorian quick sews? Well, this is pretty much a Regency quick sew. So I'm going to get this one together and then I'll show you the next steps. So, and now that I have sewn center back, the stays are getting closer and closer to being done. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to baste these two layers together because as you can see, they can move around quite freely. And I want to make sure that when I'm sewing in the boning channels, they're actually going to be in the right spots everywhere. After that, I'm going to sew the boning channels, then sew the binding, add the grommets, and then I think we're done. Yeah, add some laces and then we're done. So I'm going to get to basting. So everything's going to stay nice and secure while we're working on it. And then it is boning channel time. So let's get to work. Well, my stays are finally done. It took a little bit longer than expected, as usual with all of my projects, but it's all done and I am very happy with it. Yes, I'm still wearing it with my Victorian chemise. I will make another chemise at some point, but this one works pretty good, so why not? As you can see, it fits really well and it makes like a good shelf which is kind of what you want in Regency Stays. Also, the nice thing about these straps is they're adjustable, so I can make them tighter or looser, and it just works with a little tie, so it is very easy to adjust, and they're actually very comfortable. Now, I've told you before that the reason I'm making short stays is because I've made short stays before, and I really like them because you can do whatever you want in these. So especially since normally whenever I go to festivals, it's Regency festivals. So for me, for festivals like these, the short ones are amazing. Also, I really like how the color turned out. The fabric ended up being a nightmare to sew with. It lets you just fade away whilst just looking at it. So for next time, I'll definitely be using a different fabric. So make sure that when you are picking your fashion layer, that it's not actually a super fraying fabric. You will thank me later. The pattern I have used from a clusterfuck is definitely recommended. I will once again link it down below so you can try it out yourself, make some mock-ups, and then start on the real thing, and you can make a pretty one like this one, or just make it nice and plain so it fits with everything. The nice thing about the soft pink color is it still goes really well with lighter color dresses on top. And I'll also need to make some covers for this, my chemisettes, dresses. I still have plenty to do. I also have a ball gown that I have worn before, and I actually never finished it. Like for the ball, I literally just sewed myself into a dress, which is also not recommended, but hey, sometimes when you're in a rush, you have to do whatever you have to do. So I might actually alter the dress so it's going to fit me now again, and then I have to go find some cool Regency places to go to. But for now, I'm just really happy that this part of my undergarments is done because it is a very vital part. And the nice thing about a lot of Regency stuff is I have a lot of standard patterns that I can use, and I can just alter them to like suit my style or whatever dress I want to make. And it is really easy to just drape on yourself when you already have the fitting undergarments. If you like my videos, don't forget to hit a like, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and go check out all the other videos I've made so far already. I'm going back to the drawing board and figure out what I'm making next, but for now I'm just going to enjoy my Regency Stays and enjoy that I finished another thing this year. And I will see you all next time.